Welcome to Noon Hour Slides from the Moose Jaw Museum and Art Gallery. We're located on Treaty 4 territory, the traditional lands of the Blackfoot, Cree, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We pay our respects to First Nations and Métis ancestors and reaffirm our relationship with one another. We gratefully acknowledge funding from the City of Moose Jaw, Sask Arts, Sask Culture, Saskatchewan Lotteries, Canada Council for the Arts, Canadian Heritage, and the Government of Canada. I'm Vincent Hotelling, the Administrative Assistant here, and I'm here to welcome you to today's presentation. Karla and Chris Rasmussen are here to talk about Waterton Lakes National Park. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chris, and Karla's with me here today. And as mentioned, we're going to talk about Waterton Lakes National Park. A little bit about us before we get underway. Karla and I enjoy traveling very, very much, and we turn those travel joys into some photography as we go. And we post that on social media under the tag Wandering Whimzy. So if you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X as it's called, we use those quite a bit to document our journeys. And we do sell some of our portraits, but not as much as we used to. It's more of just a fun thing for us to be able to document and look back on these trips as we go. This trip here is Waterton Lakes National Park, Alberta, and this was last summer. And for us, this was an opportunity to go back to Waterton Lakes after the massive forest fires went through the national park. And it was our first time being back in the summertime to actually see what's grown, what is still recovering, and the upgrades and changes that are being made to the park as a result.
Get our slide switched here, hopefully. There we go. So here's just a map, an overview of the park and kind of get you settled type of thing. You can see the size of the lakes kind of in the lower center portion there. It is a massive body of water, and there's upper, middle, and lower Waterton Lakes. And the town site is kind of where the cluster of icons are, right in the center there. Actually, I think I've got my laser pointer for those folks that are here in person, right in the center there. So that's something that is very much defining of the landscape there, is being surrounded by these enormous bodies of water, as well as all of the mountains, of course, around there too. Oh, going this way. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so we set out on our drive. We came from Moose Jaw here in our city, and we usually take our pets with us. So you can see this is our cat Louise. She's just passed away in the fall, but she was an elderly little senior kitty and loved to travel with us, especially the sun. As you can see, she's up on the dashboard there. Chris got to take her for a walk at one of the rest stops just outside of Bow Valley there, which is the home of Pinto McBean. Here we are arriving in Waterton Lakes town site. We were in the town site campground. There were initially there was one other campground before the forest fire. However, they have not repaired it or been able to rebuild the infrastructure that was severely damaged. So currently the only really accessible campsite for trailers and folks that need a few more amenities is the one in the town site here. And we kind of just did a little bit of an exploratory walk around the community to get our bearings. Again, like Chris had said, it's been a few years since we've been there in the summertime. And in the picture on the right, you can see one of the local deer. They love this little runoff creek area. Often, almost every time we went for a walk, there was a deer in or nearby. Just a beautiful place. It's quite colorful depending on the time of day. You can see how the mountains kind of light up there. And then the pebbles on the shore of the lake, it is definitely not a sandy lake, are very colorful too. I've got a couple pictures further on that really kind of highlight that. And this is our old dog Radar. He enjoys the water very much. He's a Brittany Spaniel. And even though he's going to be 16 next month, he still likes to get out and truck around. And so this was just his absolute delight, was being able to splash in the water. We also brought our ferret camping with us. This is Leon on the left. And then throughout this presentation, you'll see a lot of differences in the weather. Our first morning, it was pouring rain, very damp. And then we would get pockets of this, and then the weather would actually brighten right up. We'd have hot, sunny, humid parts of the day, and then it would go right back to raining again. So fairly unsettled. And you'll see the differences in our pictures, even within, a few minutes of taking one in one direction, turning around, you'll see a completely different weather pattern in the next picture. So we were here at the very end of June and into the first week of July. This is Cameron Falls, which is right in the town site. It's a very accessible waterfall. My dog Muppet, she's in the wagon in the top right corner there. She's just passed away as well. She was also very old and she was having trouble with her mobility, but she enjoyed going for walks in our wagon and helped her get out and still kind of sniff things and be a part of the walk because she was kind of sad if she got left behind. And of course, Radar was in the water. So we're walking along the lakeshore pathway here. There's a lovely little paved path, and it takes us right down to the town site. The photo in the upper right corner is the Prince of Wales Hotel, and it is fairly famous. Was built by the railway many years ago, and it is beautiful. I've got a couple pictures of it inside further along, but it has this enormous panoramic view from the hill on which it sits looking up Upper Waterton Lake. In the town site, it's quite serviced. There's a gas station, there's a subway here, as you can see, lots of little shops, a number of hotels, and things you might need, grocery shopping and that sort of thing. It's fairly well serviced. And this is the new interpretive center, the visitor center that was built a couple of years back. It replaced a very old one. Actually, I think there was two different ones at different times. One was completely destroyed by the fires. And this was what they had kind of come up with here. So it's got it's got a dry, like a riverbed around it. There's sculptures and signs of the local animals. And then these like three-dimensional murals are inside. And these are just a couple of them. They were all throughout. A gorgeous place to go and also a nice place to take some refuge if the weather wasn't too great. This is again Cameron Falls. There's a path that you can walk up on the one side, and this is kind of looking down and into it. So it's a really neat place, and you can get fairly close to the falls. One of the evenings, actually several evenings, we went to the interpretive program at this little center that's built into the hill in the town site campground. And when we came out, there was this beautiful rainbow, double rainbow actually, that stretched over, and again, just kind of highlighting the varying weather that we experienced during the trip. And this is our campsite here. So the town site campground is not overly treed. They have been doing a lot of hard work planting new trees, but it is fairly open. Because Waterton Lakes National Park is known to be fairly windy, I think it's mainly because of the shape of the valley that the lake is in, surrounded by the mountains on either side. They don't actually allow fires in the town site. You can have, I think, one of those propane fire pits, but you can't have an actual fire with wood. So something to be prepared for if you've not camped there in the past, but we had some beautiful skies. So this is a photo of what the fire looked like and how quickly it spread. So you can see the yellow, it was the fire perimeter, September 11th, 2017. And the next day you can see in the red how far it actually spread. And then there's a turquoise arrow kind of in the lower center part of your screen there. That's where the town site is. So it was very, very close to being completely wiped off the face of the earth. They did an enormous job with fire suppression, firefighting, trying to save the different buildings and that sort of thing. And incredibly, the town site survived almost 100% intact. There was a few structural things on the periphery that were destroyed or damaged, but otherwise it was actually saved. So a remarkable feat that they did. This is the start of the hiking trail up to Bertha Lake, and we were planning to go as far as the falls, which is a doable hike. And along the way, because of all the moisture and the regrowth after the forest fire, the floor of the forest was just alive with greenery, and we were there at a great time to see some wonderful flowers starting to emerge. So we've got columbines and violets and wild clematis, all kinds of different things, and a number I couldn't identify, so I used my little iNaturalist app to kind of pick them out. So this is the trail. It is fairly steep and there's a fair number of switchbacks going up, at least for the first part of it here. My son was away working and couldn't come on the trip. So the picture on the right shows my daughter Izzy on the left in the blue shirt and one of her good friends that came along with her to keep her company. So as you can see quickly, we very much go up, looking back at the town site in the picture on the left and then more just across the lake in the picture on the right. It is a fairly steep ascent at this point in time. Then it levels out and then there's some more switchbacks. So a little bit of endurance is required for this trail. Some more flowers. I believe the one on the right is a coral root, which is related to an orchid, I believe. And again, just the floor was alive, color and greenery and so many wonderful things. It was great to see it coming back. In the larger picture in the top right, you can see a lot of the dead trees that were killed off by the forest fire. And even looking back at that previous slide, seeing how close it came to the town site, it really does give you pause. And continuing going up, and again, the top right picture, we're kind of coming to the bit of a bend there, and there are no trees at that point. They're all just undergrowth. So we're still going up, and you can see the difference in the colors of the pictures here, sun in some and not in the others. And it was very, very humid. We had started off with many layers on, and I was down to my tank top in the first little bit because it was so very warm and humid. And this was just after a bit of a bend in the trail. So the plants that this deer is going after is bear grass, and it's kind of that larger spiky thing. I've got some close-ups of them coming up in a moment or two here. But bears don't eat them, but the deer sure do. And it was a bit of a challenge. We could see where the plants had been before. Waterton Lakes National Park is quite famous for this particular piece of vegetation. And I was disappointed because all the stalks were nipped off. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Who's eating these? And eventually we came across the culprit here, and the deer was going along and voraciously munching down on all the bear grass that it could find. And this is again just further up the bend, and now we're going back into the mountainy area. There's lots of birds to be seen. It was a great place to kind of just sit and be quiet, hear the bird song and that sort of thing. But again, you can notice the absence of the trees, the living trees. There's lots of skeletal trees that were left over from the forest fire, and these are starting to fall down now. They've been decaying and decomposing a little bit at a time here, so there'll be likely another shift in the view of the landscape in the next little while as well as those come down. So top right corner, pardon me, top left corner is the bear grass in full bloom. So you can see it's got this big white pom-pom sort of look to it. And then the large picture on the right, we're actually going back up and getting closer to the waterfall here for Bertha Falls. Very dramatic. People ahead of us on the trail had thought they had seen a bear, and we didn't see anything. We could hear a little bit of rustling, but apparently there was a bear on the trail just ahead of us. More bare grass on the right. And then this is Bertha Falls. And this does come down from Bertha Lake, higher up the mountain. The trail gets even steeper going past this point, very tight switchbacks. I've only been up there once, and it's a really nice place. It's definitely not overcrowded. This whole trail was active with hikers of different ability levels, but it wasn't like the Johnston Canyon Trail you might take in Banff in Lake Louise area. Waterton is a wonderful mountain park that is not yet completely congested, but it does have its busy times as well. We've kind of beaten that by coming early in the season. So lovely falls coming down, which form the river that comes back out into the lake. And you can walk pretty close down to it. Lots of folks were putting their feet in, that sort of thing. And it was just really a nice place to kind of take a break. We had our snacks and our granola bars here. And then turning around and coming back down. We have lots of yellow and purple flowers in Canada and the prairies and the mountains. And again, just seeing how close the forest fire came, that one shows it just a little bit better. You can see it's green in the town site, and then the hills kind of on either side, not so much. A little further in the photo journey here, we'll go on a trail where you could never see what was beyond the trees because they were so dense, and that is one plus, I guess, of the forest fire, is it actually reveals the landscape underneath a bit better. So we had gone back to the visitor center that evening, and we took in a talk by one of the park wardens, and that was a very fascinating presentation. I was quite unprepared for the small number of wardens that are actually in the park system. They have a lot of support staff, but this gentleman here was a younger fellow. He had gotten into it fairly young himself, and he said he never knows what his day is going to bring him. After he was done his talk, he was going to go check out someone allegedly that had some illegal fireworks in the area and was getting ready to set them off in advance of Canada Day. So everything from bears to fireworks is kind of under his parameters. Just some more snaps around the town site here. The center picture in the top left are Welch's Candy Shop, and it's quite a delight if you like sweet things. They've also got specialty coffees and ice cream. And then there's a gas station in the top right. And then there's a sign in the bottom right for the Waterton Glacier International Peace Park. And Glacier National Park in Montana is connected almost. Like they butt right up to each other on the border. And they actually share a very special relationship because of that proximity. And you can see the rain at the far end of the lake there, a little bit of a rainbow, but again, constantly changing over this trip. Muppet is watching a deer, and then it got too rainy and we went inside the trailer. So we watched a movie and we had some snacks, and you can see my cat was pretty interested in stealing some. The next morning was nice and clear and blue skies to start off with. And we decided to drive back to the Red Rock Canyon area, which is another road that goes a little bit deeper into the park. And this is us as we're winding back. We did get a good glimpse of a bear. So the arrow in this picture, same map as before with the forest fire, but we are heading in that direction there, away from the town site. And it is a fairly remote area. It does take you to a few backcountry trails and places where you can camp overnight. You do need a permit for that, but it was a little bit of a different landscape here because we were so far away from the main lake area. This is walking around Red Rock Canyon. You can see in a few of the pictures coming up here how red the rocks truly are, and just beautiful contrast against the blue sky. This is looking down into them. There's a trail network and a number of bridges that let you crisscross and see them from different angles. It's also a very popular area and a really awe-inspiring place. There's a good one showing how red the rocks are. And they don't mind if folks go down to the river here. It's something that I think they used to warn against, but people were doing it anyway, so they thought, why not let them? And they took down a lot of the barriers that were there. But it is a really cool spot. And from that point, we embarked on a short trail back to Blackiston Falls. And in the past, when we've done this trail area in previous years before the forest fire, the forest itself and the undergrowth were incredibly dense, and you could not see more than a couple of feet off the trail in any direction. So as we go through here, you can see again just the vistas that were revealed because the trees were no longer there and fully leafed or with their needles. So this is back at the falls. There were two viewing areas. The picture in the center kind of shows the main viewing area from afar, which is right by the falls. And it was great. You could walk all over this area here. This was rebuilt after the forest fire because the initial infrastructure was damaged beyond reuse. So they rebuilt everything, and it really did allow you to get right up close to the water and feel it. Actually, it was very thunderous. You could feel it in your chest. So just very neat stuff here. The picture on the right shows some of the little baby trees that are starting to emerge. So it will be interesting to see as the forest continues to develop, which tree species take over, if new ones come in, and if any different plants also take over areas that were previously occupied by the trees. This is near the parking lot at the Red River, the Red Rock Parkway area. We needed a bit of a break. We were very warm and needed a bit of a rest, so we went and cooled down by the river. This is on the drive back. This is near the other campground that's not reopened yet, the Crandall Mountain campground. You can drive partially in and then the road is blocked off, but we did spot some more bears. A mama and some cubs were back here. This was just a hillside getting very close back to the main road, just completely scoured by wind and the elements over the years. I like taking pictures of dead trees, it appears, so. From that point, we went up to the Prince of Wales Hotel, and as I mentioned earlier, it is very windy, so this person was flying a lovely little green kite and barely staying on the ground. I think if they had something a little bit larger, they might have actually left the ground. It was pretty windy that day. And this is the point of view from the top of the hill. So Vimy Ridge Mountain is across from the hotel there. And then from this point, you can look up Upper Waterton Lake and Middle Waterton Lake. You can see my daughter's hair blowing in the breeze there. And this is inside the main lobby area, and they've got kind of a lounge in the Prince of Wales Hotel. Beautifully redone. It's historically accurate. They haven't done a lot of modernization. I understand they still do not have air conditioning in the rooms. So being a mountain park, it doesn't get extremely hot in the summer, but it is one of those modern conveniences that they had decided not to go with at this point in time. And back in the town, looking up to where we were, All right, so the next day we were going to go the other direction. So the blue arrow in the bottom center, we're going up to Cameron Lake. And there's a nice little parking lot. You can rent boats and canoes. There's a little beach area, picnic sites, a really nice little place for a day trip. We had done this in, I think it was 2015, where we had rented canoes and gone all the way across the park. And that year there was almost no snow on the mountain on the far side. And that actually, I believe, is in the United States. That's kind of the border right there. So my daughter and her friend rented a little paddle boat, and they thought they would go for a little cruise around. Chris and I decided to take Radar, our dog, and go for a walk and kind of follow along where they were going along the lake shore. So 2 different ways to get to about the same place. And then the weather started to change again. You can see the very dark, heavy, wet clouds coming in. It must have rained there previously because it was quite muddy on the ground. We found some interesting textures and things like that along the way. Looking across the lake in the top right picture, the mountainside is basically pure rock. All the trees are gone from the top area there. And we caught up to the girls, who decided that they were going to turn around, just kind of seeing the clouds and what time it was. So they started to make their way back. And we just got back in time. We hid under the eave of the rental shop there while it poured torrentially, and we thought maybe we'd get a break to run back to the vehicle, but we did not. So we had to run through the rain, and poor little Radar got all wet and soaking, but we had a towel in the back for him, fortunately. This is the drive back down to the town site, and there's a number of these little kind of waterfall spillways that are secured so that they don't wash the roads out. So you can see they've put some additional rocks and almost like a fence made of metal there to help catch and contain anything that might come down with the water in the spring or during a melt, that sort of thing. But you can see from the bowl shape of this area where the waterfall is coming, how large it has been in the past at different times. That evening, we were still a little chilly and damp, so we went out for supper. We went to one of the restaurants called Sums, and they are known as this really tasty place that has a lot of eclectic decor. And there's a lot of folks from all over the place like to come here for an annual meal if Waterton is on their list. Further that evening, it was still kind of not so nice outside, so we decided to check out a film. This was my first time going to Waterton Lakes Opera House, which is an old building. It is still a movie theater, and they've got a little bit of that heritage still, their original seats and some of the architecture inside. It's a pretty neat place. The next day was sunny when we got up, so away we went, took them up it for a little walk and that sort of thing. The butterfly was out, lots of really colorful things to see. And the girls were kind of tired, so Chris and I decided to take this hike. And again, it was one we have done before. The Bears Hump is a climb up a fairly steep part of the mountain that overlooks the town site as well as the Prince of Wales Hotel. It's kind of in between those 2 areas there. And it is virtually switchbacks from the bottom to the top. In some places you can see there are these almost stairs or blocks of wood put in to help control erosion and from people's feet as well as from rainfall. But away we went up, and again, just like the Blackiston Falls tour that we had done, you're able to see a lot more because the trees are not there anymore. There's lots of these little ground squirrels. They look like chipmunks, but they're not. They're quite a bit bigger. They're a little bit bigger than a red squirrel, but not as large as a gray squirrel. And up we go. And there's our view from the very top. The last time we had come here in 2015, we actually did the hike at twilight. So the lights of the town site were just coming on, and we got some really pretty sunset colors in the sky. But this was a nice weather day. It wasn't too warm, it wasn't wet. So we thought this would be a great day to do it. And the skies were very clear. I had been here on other occasions when there was a lot of forest fire smoke in the air and you couldn't see to the end of the lake. So we had ideal conditions for this particular hike. And normally there aren't a lot of trees on this part as well, up this kind of arm of the mountain, but you could still see how close again that forest fire had come. Looking back, Prince of Wales Hotel is on the left side there, and you can see some of the switchbacks on the right going down. So slow and steady is a good approach to this hike if you're interested in it. People of all ages and backgrounds are able to do it. You just need to rest along the way. I have some trouble with my mobility, so I was taking some stops. And our cat Louise popped out enjoying the sun. She was definitely a heat seeker and really liked being outside when it was sunny with us. This was an evening where we went for a bit of a bike ride, Chris and I, and we found quite a few deer in the town site. This lovely little baby was hopping around frolicking. This is a boat, the International. It is a vintage vessel, and you can take it for tours that go all the way down to the United States side of the lake, and it's kind of nice. It is definitely a bit more expensive than it used to be, but it is a nice way to see the lake and get right out there on the water. So we had biked over to this little picnic area, which is at the base of the hill that the Prince of Wales Hotel is on. So kind of looking out ahead and then looking back up, that's about where we were. And we found this really neat little pebbly beach, and you can really see the colors in the rocks. There's reds and greens and blues. And then there was this really neat rock formation that was actually kind of out in the water, like an arm or almost a little bit of an island reaching out a peninsula here. So very different from the other part of the beach area on the main town side part. So Chris and I spent some time just kind of checking things out here. Great vantage point. And all the neat little plants that were growing in the cracks between the rocky areas. It was kind of amazing to see them growing out of a rock. So nice time of day to go with the sun on the mountains, and the clouds was just beautiful. And I believe this is our last full day there in Waterton. And so we usually started the day with a walk with the dogs, but we did spend some time down on the beach because the weather was quite nice, warm and sunny. Got to see the boat go by. And then we had made a booking to go on a horseback ride. My daughter rides regularly, the rest of us not so much. So we were given some fairly easy to control horses, and away we went. This riding stable's been at the park for a long time. It's a family-owned operation. Great group of folks, and they did a great job of leading us out and around to some meadows, and then we actually got to ride through the water a little bit as well, and seeing the park from kind of a different perspective, places we wouldn't normally go ourselves. So really, really cool. Very peaceful back here. You couldn't hear the roads from the main area or anything like that. And I know they did evacuate during the forest fire, and I believe a good deal of their infrastructure, the stable was also destroyed, so they did a lot of rebuilding. And this was our final night there, and I love this picture that Chris took of his hiking boot. He had just got them not much long before we actually did this trip, and he was trying to find rocks that match the colors on his hiking boot, and he did a pretty good job of coming close to finding all of them there. And then I think that's the last picture. So thank you for watching and following along.